Welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Matt Podcast. I am your host, Metal Matt, and so we'll go ahead and get things started. First of all, Chucky's Playground, great place to be. Awesome place. We're talking about all kinds of things, so definitely check it out. And Movie Mayhem with Spanky and G. They recently did an episode on the Lego Movie, which was really good. It was really fun to hear another Movie Mayhem episode. And, it was really fun. And I haven't seen the Lego Movie just yet, but I'm going to try and see it this weekend. Because it's on demand on DirecTV, so I'm going to try and watch it. So, yeah, this week's episode is going to be, today's episode is going to be really fun. Because I'm actually going to be talking about one of my favorite movies of all time. And we're still in March, we're still doing musical March, and this one has a lot to do with music, in particular hard rock and heavy metal. So it's definitely right up my alley, and I'm talking about School of Rock. And I think I saw this when it first came out. Not necessarily when it first came out, when it first came out on DVD and stuff like that. I got it at Walmart, I believe. And, I don't know why I got it, to be honest. I think it was, on sale or something like that. So I'm like, you know what, this looks pretty cool. I'll go ahead and get it. And, and I really liked it the first time I watched it, I really loved the fact that it was just so funny and so great, yeah, and let's go ahead and get things started. It really revolves around the character of Dewey Finn. He's played by Jack Black, and Jack Black's been in a ton of stuff. He's been in those Kung Fu Panda movies. He's in a band called Tenacious D, which is really metal mixed with comedy, and it's really good. I did done 3 albums: Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny, and Rise of the Phoenix, and all 3 of those are really good. So I highly suggest checking it out. If you liked Jack Black's performance, then you might like it because it's sort of his brand of comedy. But so yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff, and he's with this band called No Vacancy, and it starts out with a gig, that they're doing, and he ends up taking a stage dive, and no one bothers to catch him. And so he's fired by No Vacancy because he's a very over the top, performer. He's sort of a rock star wannabe kind of. He really desperately wants to be a rock star, but he's not that talented. I mean, he can play guitar pretty well. But he's no Jimmy Page, I guess you would say, or anything like that. But he's fired from that, and not to mention, he's pressured by his roommate, Ned Schneebly, and his girlfriend, Patty, who's played by Sarah Silverman. And Dewey doesn't have a job. His band is really the only thing that he depends on. He has no backup plan. No second job or anything like that. So, Dewey ends up taking a call from Ned, and it's from Horace Green, and it's like this really big time private school, very high, standards and stuff like that, and they're looking for a substitute teacher, and Dewey decides to actually imitate, or however you say it, imitate Ned, and actually takes the job. And he meets Principal Mullins, who's played by Joan Cusack, and she's been in a lot of stuff as well. She was in Working Girl, and a lot of romantic comedies, and she was the voice of Jessie in the Toy Story movies. So you might recognize her voice when you might recognize her. And I think she's also in the show Shameless as well. So that's another place you might recognize her. But introduced to the class, and it's really like a bunch of 10-year-olds, I think. So it's like a bunch of 5th graders, I guess. And of course, Dewey has no idea how to teach, so he just instructs the class to do recess. And Dewey ends up overhearing the class when they take music class. And there's like this big battle of the bands competition in the local town that's going to happen. It's going to be paying big money, and Dewey feels that this would be the best way to pay off his rent. And so he teaches his students various instruments. Like he teaches one kid Zach guitar, one kid, I can't remember his name, Freddie, I believe, the drums, So it teaches some kids instruments, and he gives a lot of the other kids like, various road jobs, I guess, like behind the scenes kind of stuff, like roadies, lights, costumes, kind of stuff like that. And so yeah, and it's pretty cool. And he actually teaches them a lot of classic rock. And what's kind of funny about that is none of the kids really know the bands that he was talking about, because he's talking about all these guys like Led Zeppelin and AC/DC, Motorhead, stuff like that. And the kids have no idea who they are. They only know people like Christina Aguilera, Puff Daddy, and stuff like that. And I can relate to that a lot, because when I was in school, not a lot of people knew who Joan Jett and the Blackhearts were. Nobody really knew who Aerosmith was. And that always kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, you know what? Like, this is really good music. Why don't you listen to this? Nobody knew who they are. But, I was sort of alienated in school, because I was really the only person that really listened to hard rock and heavy metal. There were some people that I hung out with that did listen to the same music I did. Like, I would hang out with some stoner girls. Don't ask. But, yeah, I used to hang out with a couple of stoner girls, and I think one of them would listen to Black Sabbath. So, yeah, score. Well, not really, but anyway. I mean, yeah. But anyway, they would listen to, Black Sabbath and a lot of cool little rock, and that was really cool. I loved hanging out with them. But that's another story for another time. But anyway, the point is, he really teaches them a lot of classic rock. And what I like about this film is that it teaches, rock and roll, and it treats it with a lot of respect, too. It doesn't, make fun of it. It doesn't talk down to it. It really treats it with a lot of respect, which is more than I can say for a movie that I'm going to do next week. I don't want to say what it is, but I think some of you might know what it is. But, anyway, so he helps a lot of the students, and, he sort of, there's a lot of character development going on here. At first, Dewey's sort of, self-absorbed, and, stuff like that. But, he ends up learning to kind of work together and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And, there's actually one person you might kind of recognize, and one of the kids who ends up becoming the manager of the band, Summer, is played by Miranda Cosgrove. And I think a lot of people might know her as the little sister Megan from Drake and Josh, and you might also know her from iCarly. She played Carly. So I think a lot of kids, teenagers will know her from that. And this was made in 2003, so that was before all that. But the funny thing is, they end up convincing the judgment panel to let him in, suffering from a terminal disease called stick-it-to-the-man-nosis. And it's really funny, because earlier in the film, Dewey is he's sort of pissed off because, Ned kind of tells him, really nicely, he's not being, offensive or anything like that. But, he kind of suggests, give up your dreams. He's, not being mean or anything, but Dewey kind of takes it the wrong way. And he ends up blaming all of his problems on the man. Oh, the man. You know what the man is? The man kidnapped Shamu and put her in the chlorine tank. The man ruined the ozone. And there used to be something to stick it to the man. It was called rock and roll. But guess what? Oh no, the man ruined that too with a little thing called MTV. So don't waste your time trying to be cool, because the man's just going to call you a fat washed up loser. So do yourselves a favor and just give up. I have like almost that entire scene memorized because it's just so funny. But anyway, so they end up faking the disease. They end up getting in, and he ends up finally getting outed when Ned discovers a check addressed to him, and he calls, and Dewey ends up, confessing to Ned what really happens, and he ends up telling Patty, and so anyway, they end up waking Dewey up. The kids sneak out of school. They wake up Dewey. They end up going to battle the bands, and they end up, battling No Vacancy, which was Dewey's old band. So that's a really interesting thing that they do, and so they end up battling No Vacancy, and they rehearse a couple of songs throughout the movie. They do I think it's called "You're Not Hardcore" technically. And they also do one that's simply called "School of Rock," which was the actual song that they did on the soundtrack. And they do a really good performance. So, all the kids actually do perform their own instruments. And they're really good, They're really impressive. And they end up kind of stealing the show. Because No Vacancy ends up winning the actual Battle of the Bands, which kind of reminds me of Rocky in a way. But, they end up, all the parents and the principal ends up recognizing the talent that all the kids have, and they end up shouting for an encore, and they end up playing "It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll" by AC/DC, and this happens over the end credits, and that's pretty much it. And Dewey and Ned open some sort of after-school program, and they teach rock music. And so that's really all that is to it. If you're a rock and roll fan, you're definitely going to love this film, because it really teaches rock and roll. It teaches it treats it with respect and class, and it can be really entertaining. It's just really good. So I love this film. I really do love it. It's one of my favorite films of all time, definitely, because I am so big into rock and roll and heavy metal and all that stuff, and this movie is chock full of heavy metal stuff. So, if you're definitely a rock fan, you'll love it. Even if you're not, you might still love it because it's still funny, So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the Melmat Podcast. What am I doing next week? I can't really say just yet. But there are going to be films that I didn't really like that much, and there's still going to be musical films. So it's going to be some negativity next week, but when you see the movies that I do, you'll probably understand why. So that's it for the Melmat Podcast, and I'll see you all next time.